Hey, it's Kimberly Smith Austin here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Made to Inspire podcast. I am here today with my awesome and amazing co-host, Misty Kerrigan. Hey, Misty.
Woo! I love our guest already. Hey, Kimberly. We are here on another amazing podcast. We are getting such great feedback. Thank you guys. Please send the emails, do the likes, drop us the DMs. But we are really getting a lot of great feedback on our guests and the tools and the actions that we're getting. And Kimberly, the other day, you sent me a statistic, and it said that we were one of the top podcasts out there that give out content.
I'm super excited. We provide 94% more business content than other business podcasts in the world. So that was huge for us. And we are just on 10 this week as we celebrate that big win milestone in our business.
Awesome. I cannot believe our Business for Business series. We've had some amazing people, and it's just each week just takes us to another level. And we have been trying to get this next guest since we've had a podcast. This next guest is a crazy as we are, personal friend, more busy than Kimberly, which is crazy. But one of my favorite aspects is
Are you kidding me, Kimberly?
Well, Dr. Alisha, I mean, one of my favorite things is you opened a business in 2020 that revolved around people coming out of their homes and working in a community. Yeah. And where a lot of people would have been, because it's a business for business, but I want to set this up a little bit because it is phenomenal. Business for business, your business helps other businesses grow, scale, do everything they need to do and not feel alone, because entrepreneurship can be alone. But in a prime time where you could have easily shut doors and you could have said, not the right time. I'm going to just start, I'll be back later, or it's not worth it. Is instead, you decided to just take on more responsibility and push even harder. And that's what I love about you, because, it's no secret right now, if we could get more small businesses and more entrepreneurs to push past their pain point, we are in the best opportunity that we've ever had to create more millionaires. And someone corrected me earlier, me and Kimberly were in a conversation, they said, no, we think more billionaires. There's never been a better time for entrepreneurs and small business owners. But your story, not the skills you're going to give right now, not the action steps you're going to give right now, but you're pushing beyond that scary point and that struggle to now come out on the other side with having one of Temecula's most growing businesses is very exciting. And we're super excited to have you on the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And by the way, congratulations on your most recent success of your podcast being like one of the, top business content providers out there. That's huge, and it's desperately needed. So yeah, I feel like as the world has changed as a result of the pandemic, a lot of people are beginning to reevaluate, whether they want to maintain corporate jobs or launch into something on their own. So being able to have resources like this podcast are extremely important. So I'm excited that you all are here and doing the work that you do.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, let me chime in just a second. I have to chime in because Misty got fired up, ready, and she started on the track, not the treadmill. She was on the track running.
Yeah.
And what I felt like we didn't do properly, and it's no fault of anyone because we're excited to finally have you here, is first of all, tell our audience who you are.
Who the heck I am. I know, right? Well, and you know what? And because we are all friends, in addition to business colleagues, we have a tendency to be a little informal. So excuse us for that momentary lapse of judgment in terms of
right.
knowing who
I'm like,
we are.
right.
Well, I just figure if they're listening, they already know you, right?
Yeah, I know exactly, right? So I, as indicated before, I am Dr. Alisha Wilkins, and I am the owner of Hera Hub Temecula. That's HERA Hub Temecula, and we are a shared workspace and business accelerator, a female-focused shared workspace and business accelerator. This does not mean that we don't accept men. It means that we're female focused. We try to elevate all businesses with a focus on female businesses. And in addition to having a community, we also offer close to 15 hours a week of business acceleration. So the idea is to not only provide a beautiful and productive workspace for people to be able to come to that's a little less distracting than working from home, but to also make sure that when they do come through these doors, that their businesses are actually getting the resources that they need to grow. So that's what we do here at Hera Hub Temecula.
That's so exciting, Alisha. And I will tell you, as a recipient of what Hera Hub puts off, I love being in the environment. It is inspiring just to be not only in the physical space because it's beautiful, but to be surrounded by other business owners, entrepreneurs who are just on a track of building their business. I have so much fun, and I know fun is usually the word used when we're describing business, but it should. If you're not having fun building, creating your business, you're in the wrong space. So we have fun at Hera Hub, and super excited that you allow us, both Misty and I, to share that space and be a part of the community. So as we get into learning more about you and what Hera Hub is all about, I want to just start by asking you, how did you get on this journey? Tell us a little bit about your journey from where you started to how you ended up here as a owner of Hera Hub Temecula.
Okay. Yeah. So my degree is in organizational psychology, and during I know, right? Another thing in common with Misty. So when I was doing my research, I was doing it on remote workers, actually. So I have been studying remote workers since 2009. So before it was a catchphrase.
Or it was a trend.
And yeah, before it was a trend. And I remember distinctly way back in 2009, my professors used to get so annoyed because I was always talking about virtual work and remote workers and da 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 da. And they're just like, oh God, here she comes again with that. Well, I really thought that it would be millennials and Gen Zs that led us towards, a much more remote work environment. I didn't know it was going to be a pandemic, mind you, that would, kind of kick us off. But so I've always, has just had this innovative idea that, this is the way of the future. We need to prepare. We need to be ready for this. And during my research, there were a number of participants. I did a quantitative statistical study, and a number of my participants were actually members of various co-working spaces. And because Temecula is a small town, I mean, sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but it is very much still a town that's only been around for just a little over 30 years. I thought, wow, it'd be great to have such a co-working space in Temecula. And then by mere happenstance, I happened to go down to the Hera Hub in Carlsbad, California, and went there for an event, not knowing that it was a co-working space. In fact, I thought all the women were working. I thought Hera Hub was a business, like an organization that all the women were working for.
Sure.
And like
like that,
right? What kind? Yeah, right. And then I learned that no, they each had their own separate businesses, and that this was an actual co-working space. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have to bring this to Temecula because there was something just different. The energy was so different than I even expected from a co-working space. And that energy was one of community. It was, and and I've said this before that when you have a business, it's like a baby. It's like having a baby, and and it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it also takes a village to raise a successful business. That whole idea of, Lone Ranger, riding off into the sunset by yourself is not realistic. It really is not. It really does take a community to help to build a successful business. And that's what I saw there was a community. And so that's what so when I decided to bring Hera Hub to Temecula, it wasn't, oh, let me bring this business to Temecula. It was, let me form this community here in Temecula. So that was my journey. It ended up being, this whole concept of a co-working space ended up being much bigger than I anticipated. And as Misty mentioned earlier, so here I am, 2020, March 2nd of 2020, opening my doors. And 2 weeks later is the statewide shutdown. And here I am, trying to open, to create this community in the middle of a shutdown where people can't physically come into the space. But one of the things that I did, and I would, say this as a tip for other businesses that are, in the process of trying to develop, especially someone who has like a membership type business, right? Is really truly work on the community before you actually kind of like open the doors of your business. And I think that was one of the winning strategies for why I was successful. I actually had about 15 founding members, and these were people who were committed and bought into the idea and were already part of my community before I even opened my doors, like a year before I even opened my doors.
Right, you would have the community in other spaces while you were building the community before you even had your own space, if I'm correct.
Absolutely, yes. And what Misty is referring to is I used to have what's referred to as pop-up co-working. And so, and actually Oak Grove, Culinary Creations on 2nd Street in Old Town Temecula was one of the locations where I would have different people come, and we would literally just sit down in a cafe, and I'd cover their cost of their coffee and their pastries, and we just sit down and we would work. And sometimes, organic conversations would start, and people would started, talking to one another and then collaborating with one another in the same venue. I mean, in the same way that we are right now, right? Working together, and so that synergy started to take place. And so it was easy to bring that into the physical space. So when they say build it and they'll come, the building it isn't necessarily the physical location. The building it is like, the mental aspect of building this community, and then, really truly opening your doors. So that's definitely a tip, especially for anyone who is like a service-based business and is doing things that are like very membership based, is don't wait until everything is all perfect and the building's there and all this other kind of stuff. Go ahead and begin to develop that community.
Oh my gosh.
If I could just for a second really touch base on that, Alisha, because you did something really wonderful. As you mentioned, you offered these pop-up co-working, and I remember coming to Siler's gallery a few times, co-working as a community with you and connecting with some of the women. And I'll be quite honest, even though I've known you, we have a relationship, every now and then I may go somewhere else, go to the coffee house and work, or Misty and I collaborate somewhere else, but you always stay top of the mind. Not only did you stay top of the mind because of the community you created, but then you also offered some business acceleration free to the community. Come be a part of us. Look and see what we are and what we experience. And I think those are critical things that you put in place to invite people into your space. So not only could they hear about it, but they could partake in it. And that
Absolutely.
allows you to stay top of the mind. So when they are ready, like Misty and I said, it's time for us to step out of our homes and step into a co-working place. You were the first place we wanted to go to.
Well, to be fair, every time we were there, she's like, "Are you guys ready?" We're like, "Oh no, we're here for the class. So we're here to do this." She's like, "Okay." And finally, we're like, "We're here more than you are. We should probably join."
I didn't feel that pressure though, Misty. You know, I didn't feel the pressure. I mean, even if the conversation was had, I felt like she always just opened the doors and welcomed us in and said, you know what, there's a space here for you when you're ready. And when we were ready, she was gracious and kind enough to say, this is what I have available. Are you ready? And we said, yes.
No, I didn't. I didn't say pressure. Just remind me when I was little and I was always at my best friend's house. And they're like, when's the adoption papers being signed? Because when you feel at home somewhere. So that's what it was. We were there more than probably most members were at that time, to be honest. And that was our joke with Dr. Alisha. So I love this. When you first hear you did all these studies in remote work, one would think, oh, remote work is how to make someone more successful while working from home, but as they're home. And your studies probably found the biggest gap. Even the word remote is opposite of community. So in your educate, you have a damn doctorate in it. So I know you spent years and days, right, just reading and researching and reading and researching. And you found the pinnacle pitfall of why sometimes remote work, because it's lonely, you can't grow past yourself.
Exactly.
And who do you go to if you're the boss and the employee, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And there's not a lot of there, and as it grows, but back then there wasn't anything really, probably in the time that you started, which I love is that you found even back then is the community that most entrepreneurs lack. It's getting better, but what an amazing job, not only to solve two problems with one business is brilliant.
Thank you.
I know it's a chain business, but you probably were just that looking around to like, I know there's a gap, and what an amazing way to join a community to build your business. You're in a community business with the community.
Yeah. And speaking of my research, what I studied was this concept of social presence. And a lot of times when I throw out the term social presence, people automatically think, oh yeah, how present I am on my social media channels, and and it's not that. It's actually basically how psychologically connected and real someone feels when you're communicating using technology. Like right now, how real do I actually feel to you in this dialogue? And so I was studying this concept and discovered that people who were much more socially present, or at least leaders who were much more socially present, had higher, their team members had higher job satisfaction. There was, better retention of the team members, much more loyalty to the organization, a lot of different things. And then I started to dissect, what is the social present? What does it really look like? Because that's at the end of the day, it's like, okay, well, what does it look like, right? And essentially, those leaders were much more intentional with their with their correspondence with their team members. They did things like subtle things like an email where they actually addressed them by their name instead of just give me that report, I need it by such and such date. It'd be like, hey, Kimberly, can you please provide me that report by da-da-da-da-da? You know what I mean? So utilizing people's names, a lot of different things that made it feel much more personal, and less like you were just talking to a robot. And so, and then two, the research also essentially in a nutshell just confirmed that no matter who the individual was, whether they were male or female or non-identifying, or whether they were kids, had kids, I'm sorry, not kids, but had kids, whether they were, parents or not parents, or it didn't matter. they all wanted connection. And a lot of times we think, oh, if someone wants to be a remote worker, then they're probably like this loner who like doesn't want to be around people, et cetera, et cetera. And that simply is not the case. Everyone, no matter how I, churn the data, male, females were just as likely to want to have those connections. And that was probably the most interesting thing about my my work. It didn't matter if they were an executive or frontline employee. It just did not matter. They all still wanted that connection. And so my goal had become how to create those water cooler conversations and experiences outside of the physically being present with people. So anyways, but yeah, so that's a little bit of my research and
well,
what
I want to
go ahead.
The byproduct is the human need is connection, and creating a business around creating opportunities for connection. The byproduct is growing your company, the collaborations, the joint ventures. And I don't know if you keep track of, but you should, how many joint ventures are happening in your community that you've built. Even your event joint ventures. I know me and Kimberly included have done some joint ventures with a couple other fellow members, including yourself. Yeah. So it really just is interesting because we're having these conversations in the business for businesses. If you are creating or solving a problem, lack of connection, you found ways to monetize a membership site and a membership, come in. And now, wow, the outcome is more people's business are growing and scaling, and they're even growing to how many different things of money are coming in.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting to say that I've never considered tracking the collaborations. Something that I'm like, I'll have to include in my KPIs.
Absolutely. Because it's happening every day. I mean, think about it. We brought some other Hera Hub members here on the podcast. We're doing presentations and workshops. So there's
I won't name any names, but he is handsome.
Who's that?
Yeah.
You see, we brought other Hera Hub members on our podcast. I said, I'm not naming any names, but he was handsome.
I know, right?
Alisha, I'd like to talk just a moment, and I'm going to go back to my personal experience, having been a management consultant, working in the consulting firm, traveling 30 to 35 weeks a year. I used to go to incubators because that was a spot for me to take my client work, go sit in there, churn away, but I had connection with other people. And I know in today's marketplace, the word incubator, it still exists, but now they've really gone to the co-working. And an incubator co-worker, a similar concept, Misty, because it looks like that's where you were at.
Well, I was going to say, some of our listeners, can you give a little definition of what an incubator is?
Pretty much the same thing. It's a organization like Hera Hub that's set up, that helps startup businesses and entrepreneurs create a workspace. It's almost exactly the same, putting everything and everyone under one roof. And that's what Hera Hub is doing. But I think the term has changed in the marketplace. And so when you say remote working, I think back to my early career days when I did it on a regular basis. Even as an online professor back from 2001, I've always worked remotely. And I've had to, and I think I've shared this with you before, sometimes I need to get out of my house. If I'm not traveling, I need to get out, which is really one of my motivators to say, you know what? It's time to get out. I've been in too long. I'm not in an incubator environment. I'm not traveling due to COVID and other circumstances, but I know that what you create is magical. And so I thought I'd ask the question, as you look at Hera Hub 2+ years into it, what has been your greatest success or greatest joy thus far with what you're creating and allowing entrepreneurs to do in your space?
Okay, so great question. Thank you. And before I go down that line, I want to say that for the listeners and for Missy's clarification, one of the biggest differences between the incubator and an accelerator is the incubators are typically folks go there when they have like a business idea and it hasn't actually, been fleshed out yet. If they're like at the very, very infancy stage of their business, whereas the accelerator is like, okay, the business is, you have a business, you have a foundation. However, now you want to grow it. And so that's just a small, subtle difference. But most of the time, most people don't even know, that there is much of a difference, especially since, especially like in places like Hair Hub, where there's people at different levels, that are co-working. But in terms of like the one thing that has been pivotal for me, it's definitely been just being able to see the businesses grow. When I think of individuals like Latricia Towery, who actually is the space, yes, brilliant, yeah, space planner and designer who did all of my decor and space planning for Hair Hub. When we first met, she had just left her employer in order to start her own business, and starting a brand new business. And now, she's at a point where she's doing all these different commercial, projects. And so really just seeing the maturation of, the businesses that are part of Hair Hub has been extremely exciting for me. And so that's, I feel I feel almost like a mother bird, watching her her birds fly, and that really fills me up. It really fills my cup. If I could do nothing but that all day, that's what I would love to do. But at the same time, we all know as business owners, we have, we're the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. And so there's all kinds of other stuff that we end up having to be responsible for as well, which is why Hair Hub exists. Is, we recognize that oftentimes people go into business because they have a particular, subject matter expertise that they are fantastic at. Whereas when you own a business, you also have to do accounting, and you also have to do marketing and all these other things that may not be your wheelhouse, but you still have to do them in order to be successful. And that's what we try to do, is supplement those areas where where business owners have that need. So, but yeah, that's probably my number one thing. My number one joy is working directly with the members on their businesses and seeing their businesses grow.
And I believe, if I can recount correctly, you service a multitude of people, not just the business owner or the entrepreneur, but I've run into several individuals that are employees at a company and are working remotely and said, you know what, I want to come into this community, and they are now members of the Hair Hub as well. Is that true?
Yes, Kimberly. And thank you so much for mentioning that, because I think that's a phenomenon that you and I have been talking about a lot lately, is these, what I like to refer to as W-2 employees who actually have a job, a 9 to 5, where they've been allowed, where they have been allowed to work from home or work from anywhere, and have decided that, I don't want to work from home. I actually want to come into a co-working space. And so this is a trend that I had not anticipated, but it's been a pleasant surprise, because first of all, I think it just reiterates how important connection is, right? That's what we started off with, was talking about community and connection and people's desire for that. So yeah, people want the flexibility of being able to work from home so that they're not, spending 3 hours out of their day in traffic. Sure. However, they still want to be able to have those connections, and working out of a co-working space definitely is a way of being able to do that. So yeah, we've had an increase in the number of W-2 employees who, in fact, some of them have their companies are actually paying for a percentage of their membership, and they're they're loving it. It gets them out of the house. I noticed that, some of them were like, hey, with me and my husband or my wife or whatever, working both of us working from home, we need a little bit of that separation. So they're, trying to, come here as a little bit of an escape to get some work done. And so it's been
I want to add to that, which I love, is your one, I know you're only going to increase your business coaching as you start to replace candlestick makers and bakers so that you can move into your favorite place to be in your realm. So as business owners, one of the best things to do is delegate and have some people so that you can stay where you're not only most passionate, but we were just talking about this earlier, me and Kimberly, was where are you most in love with it? It comes so easy that it just flows out of you. And I know you're really busy, but you're always engaged in conversations of helping others grow, which is great because we share that background in the industrial organizational psychology and absolutely love it. But one of the things I notice about the Hera Hub is there's certain things that when you go into other co-working spaces that cause concerns or problems and why people stay away. They're like, you know what, I can't be distracted. But when I went to Hera Hub, there was already systems in place to where you don't have to be distracted. It's the cutest little thing ever. They're little cones. And if you're working and you have a different color cone, then people socially know where to, because sometimes you don't want to be rude, like, oh, I say hi to everyone. What is that? I just have to stop, start, which sucks anyway. That's why I work from home. But there's cones and spaces. The way it's designed is brilliant, where if I want to get out of the house and breathe and maybe say hi to someone, but if I just want to be focused, I can be not only in a space, but also through a cone. People honor those. And like red means don't even say hi. Like I'm in the midst of something, I don't want to interrupt you. People have their headphones on. Others, I know they have that green cone. And me and Kimberly, sometimes you have to put us in different rooms because we get super excited.
You guys aren't the only ones.
But it's such an amazing thing where I think sometimes it would hold people back. And you already have things in place where it doesn't hold people back. Even the, which I can't explain it enough, is pouring a nice cup of coffee and having some water without dropping $10. Because if I go to Starbucks where it's free, I spend more money on the coffee, and the meeting's not that professional. It's a nice coffee meeting, but having a membership where I can show up in a very professional setting, even you have levels of professional because I could sign up for different rooms, but it comes with the coffee and the water, and it comes with these little snacks, and someone's always pushing food on you. Which I love. It really feels like when I was little, my grandpa was a teacher, and I would go hang out in the teacher's lounge, even though I wasn't supposed to. And that's what it feels like in there. Is it's just like a second home for professionals to, if they want to talk business, there's business. If they want to giggle, there's giggle. But it just is that, like you said, and the icing on the cake is it was the whole point, was the whole intention of it was it's just connection, whether it's professional or personal. You have a space to do both.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I tell people, it's like, okay, yeah, you can go to Starbucks. You can totally go to Starbucks and, and work from there. However, for nearly, especially if you're going on there on a regular basis, it's actually cheaper to have a membership at a co-working space. And as someone who oftentimes spends like $11, $12 a day at Starbucks, yes, it's actually cheaper to actually just come into a co-working space.
So you have the coffee, you have the water, you have the connection, you have the cones. And what I thought was most brilliant, and I don't know if it was the question I have, was it developed because of COVID, or did you always have this intention, was you created a virtual Hera Hub where someone doesn't even have to leave their home. They could jump into incubators, they could jump into connection, they could jump into any and everything, not even living in Temecula, but it's easier because you want to show up in person. But was that already a purpose, or did COVID just kind of push that onto
COVID? It was actually COVID. So all of our programming prior to the pandemic used to be all in person. And we we're like, okay, well, how do we continue to keep people engaged, and we're continuing to get them, have them working on their businesses, right? Because I mean, with the mental stress that pandemic brought on all of us, you know, having just the wherewithal, the bandwidth to just really continue to work on your business was challenging. And so what we did was we pivoted, like so many people. I know it's a term that's overused, but the truth is that's what we did. And so we started doing our programming, you know, our business boosters, which are essentially facilitated discussions on various business topics, our writers lounge, you know, a lot of our programming, we started doing it via Zoom. And the silver lining in all that was that we were able to maintain a community. I mean, we had people who you know, during the pandemic were like, you guys have been my lifeline.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, was having like nearly mental breakdowns, but being able to jump on the Zoom, see other smiling faces, commiserate you know, what I was going through, trying to navigate, you know, homeschooling and everything else with other people who were in a similar situation as me was major. And so, and we've continued to do that. I mean, although we have, we're, you know, slowly but surely trying to bring stuff more in-house and in person, which fluctuates, it seems like every season, because it's like, okay, now rates are going back up again, right? And now there's the RC and, you know, all kinds of stuff, right? But we still have maintained that. And like I said before, the silver lining was also that our members got a chance to meet members that were in other parts of, you know, where we also have services, right? So we have.
But now your pivot to, you know, build community is now an extra benefit to your company. Because like, oh, if you can't make some of these, they're virtual. Like, oh, okay, I could stay home because if I have an important day and I'm getting a bunch done, I could still connect into my membership benefits, which is getting all this amazing hands-on business skills. And if I want to come in, I can still come in. So I think that is a testament to really looking at what you're serving. And you've done such a great job there to serve such a gap and then just continue to build on that.
Yeah, thank you.
And you know, the thing that I was thinking, and it really goes to what you were saying, Misty, and you as well, Dr. Alisha, is that you took a local model because it was local, regionally based, and you made it global. And what I think about as a global minded consultant is that this model is now duplicatable all around the world. You give people access to people, programs, processes, procedures. Now my business that was just maybe I can touch and talk to someone in Temecula, but now I'm talking to DC because Hair Hub is also in DC.
Right.
Not only that, I can offer a business booster, which promotes and shares what I do with this global marketplace. Wow. And I think one of the other things it's doing, the other silver lining, as you like to say, is it's teaching people how to be comfortable in a virtual environment. I just came out of a meeting with another organization, Toastmasters, that I'm a part of. And the group particularly said, well, let's just go back to only in person. And I was adamantly opposed to that because I know not only from 20 years of experience of being in a virtual space, but where the world is going. We are never, and I can say this with whole heart, we're never going back. This is the normal. And if you want to be able to really pivot and grow your business, entrepreneurs, emerging leaders, executives, you must incorporate this virtual model and look at remote working and how it can help you transform.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that. Absolutely.
So good.
So Alisha, as you think about your business model and what you're doing, we always like to ask our guests to share with an audience one or two things that they can do to really power up or level up, as we like to say, in what they're doing in their practices. Are there any tips and strategies that you can share with the audience that would help them on their journey to greatness?
One of the things, which I mentioned a little bit earlier before was, this idea that if you are a company that, is like membership based, to definitely don't wait, don't wait to form that community. Just begin to form it. I have pushed a number of entrepreneurs on this. A few women who have, or who have membership-based type businesses that were like, no, I need to have this already, and I need to have this already. And I'm like, no, but you already have a audience that's already interested in, and values what you have to say. Start where you are, right there. Even if it's just a handful of people, that handful of people will turn into, those 5 people will turn into 25, and those 25 will turn into 100. You know what I mean? And that really has been the main way that my business has grown. If I were to break down, where my business is coming from, I would say 80% is referrals and 20% is like, cold searches on Google or what have you, right?
Wow.
It really is like 80% is people who knew who,
Yes.
Well, we've
Power in the word of mouth.
Yeah.
Power
Yeah.
in the word of mouth. The
And
referral.
Kimberly, how many times have we talked about Hair Hub on all these different episodes? We have 112 episodes now. And I swear to you, 50 of them, we have in some way or another have mentioned it as a skill, a strategy or something. Or like the other day we were at the Hair Hub, and it's funny that it's just like you said, it is referral based, because if a product works, you're going to talk about it. You're not even going to try to sell it. You're just going to talk about how amazing it is. And I really think one of the main push for us was Sarah all the time was, and she always drops, she's a founding member or member circle. That's one
founding
of her favorite,
member.
founding member. Yeah. But just Hera Hub this and Hera Hub that. And it's just amazing, because it is, if something is working, people are going to talk about it.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, Alisha, you spoke to the entrepreneur that has a membership-based model, but what about those business owners or entrepreneurs that are currently working at home? Any word of advice to them to help them on their journey too?
Yes, doctor, because this is like your special surgery.
Yeah. So I cannot understate how important it is to have connections. I think it's great for people to attend, chamber events and different things like that. However, those are oftentimes just kind of like, like a once a month type of thing, where it's like, you're passing out business cards and you're moving on your way, whereas when you have an opportunity to come into a co-working space, and I was trying to refrain from pitching my co-working space, but
it's okay.
but the truth is that as a entrepreneur, when you run, and you're going to run into challenges, and if you're sitting at your kitchen table by yourself, who do you have to turn to, and say, hey, I'm having this issue, what would you recommend? What
your broke uncle who's already making fun of you for starting your own business,
for starting your
telling you crazy.
exactly. So, I recommend that you, connect to a space like Hera Hub and become a part of that community, regardless of what type of business you have. You'll find that it pays itself in dividends once you finally really integrate yourself. You will, it just pays off in dividends. So that's what I would recommend.
Love it, love it, love it. And I just want to make a special note that Alisha, you have come, Dr. Alisha, you've come to this show today and added so much value that it's okay to bring a pitch and share what you have to offer. Because I believe that transformational leaders don't just show up and give people information and get them excited without a next step. And you're offering that next step. In fact, I believe you might even have an offer for everyone's listening who may be in the local Temecula, Marietta, Menifee, Lake Elsinore, Fallbrook area that may want to take a look and visit Hera Hub.
Yes. So if you are in this area and you happen to be listening to this podcast and you would like to actually come in and co-work at no cost for the day, please mention the podcast. Give us a call, or contact us through our website. And if you mention the podcast, you can actually come in and co-work for free for the day. Okay.
How exciting. Well, I tell you, that's a tremendous opportunity because, again, there's tremendous value there. In the course of one day at Hera Hub, you will be amazed at everything that goes on. There's always something other than just the co-working, more education, more training, more connections, conversations. And my favorite is the open can conversations. There's a can that you have to say open can.
Yes.
And somehow we all huddle around that bad boy.
I know.
Either get it to open or close.
It's an inside joke.
It's an inside joke.
I do want to ask.
Which is why you have to come so you can be a part of that inside joke.
Part of our inside
go ahead.
Is there a public Facebook group or some public place where you do announce some of your business boosters or some of your workshops are open to the public? I know that's how we got to come in a couple of times, is you have public open. And sometimes they're small charges, way worth it, always small, but that our listeners can find that and at least be a part of that community on a free Facebook or some way to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on social media. So you can find us Hera Hub Temecula on Facebook as well as Instagram, where we announce, things that are taking place, which are open to the public. We actually have a number of people who we refer to as gurus. These are subject matter experts in a number of different things, including individuals like Troy Small, who you all have had an opportunity to meet on a previous podcast with both Kimberly and Misty, who does government contracting, and you can actually come and see him and talk to him during his guru hours at no cost, and you don't necessarily have to be a member to do that, to learn a little bit more about government contracting. How do you become a registered women business owner or minority business owner, or and secure government contracts. We also have someone who is a legal and business document guru who you can come and see as well, Jody Silverman.
Brilliant.
We've had another Hera Hub. Sarah has been on the podcast as well, and she's another guru.
Yes, she's another guru. Sarah does branding photography and video as well, and she is like our marketing subject matter expert. If you need someone to really help you flush out a great marketing strategy and have all of the great photos to go with it, she is the person to talk to. So,
this is free. I'm just clarifying for the listeners, right? I'm struggling in a specific area. I could come to one of these groups, look it up, and be like, oh my gosh, I just got to drive down to the Hera Hub, come in and sit down, have some coffee maybe, and sit with this amazing guru and just get feedback for my business. Yep.
Bookkeeper. We have a bookkeeper that's here as well. A lot of us are going to be ready to start working on our business taxes for, So
Kathy busy, huh?
Yes.
Awesome. So just the wealth of information, wealth of opportunity sitting right there for you at the Hera Hub Temecula. So Alisha, as we prepare to wrap up this show, tell us where people can find you.
So please go to our website. It's herahub.com/Temecula, and you will find us there, and you can easily just fill out a form and we'll connect with you and get you in here for a tour. All righty.
When are your guru hours?
You know what? I don't have guru hours. I know, right?
They're all the time.
I feel like they're exactly. I feel like they're all the time.
Awesome. Alisha, and I know you also are on social media as well. I believe Dr. Alisha Wilkins is your handle. So there's personal, but find her at herahub.com/Temecula. Listen, we thank you so much for finally saying yes to us. You said yes a long time ago. It was just a thing that we needed to work out. But we're so grateful for you. We thank you. And like we say every single week at our show, that there's something out there waiting for you.
Now go get it.
Woo! Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.